Hello, welcome to our chapter by chapter devotional through the entire Bible. This morning we're going to be in Genesis 13. What I'll do is I'll give you a summary of events and comment on various points of interest or theological truth for you to consider and to reflect upon. This chapter starts with Abraham traveling throughout the land of Canaan with his nephew Lot. And in the process of this journey, keeping in mind that in the last chapter he had traveled down to Egypt, in the process of this journey, we see Abraham going back to his original location where he originally built an altar. In Genesis 13, verse 3 puts it this way: And Abraham journeyed on from the Negeb as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at the first, and there Abraham called upon the name of the Lord. Now I see this as a picture of Abraham returning in repentance to the Lord. He had distrusted, he had disobeyed God, he went down to Egypt, but now he's journeying back to where he originally started, where he originally made his commitment to the Lord and built an altar, and he renews that commitment to the Lord, and that's expressed by him building a second altar. So Abraham's now where he's supposed to be, but there's still problems. In this case, it's a very different kind of problem. We're told in verse 7 that Abraham's problem, the problem that Abraham and Lot had, is that there was strife between their herdsmen because Abraham had so much livestock and Lot had so much livestock that they could not find enough fertile grounds for them. And so Abraham takes a big step of faith here in what he says to Lot during this time of strife in their relationship. And in verse 8, he says this: Abraham said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right, or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left." Now this is a big step of faith because Abraham is letting Lot choose the best land. Lot has first option, which means Abraham is trusting God to take care of him regardless of Lot's choice. And what we see next is that Lot makes a very bad choice. Now he makes a good business choice, a good financial choice, but a bad spiritual choice because Lot chooses to go to the land that will best prosper him financially, that will increase his herds the most. But in doing so, he chooses to live near the land of Sodom, which was known for its wickedness. Here's what it says in Genesis 13, verses 10 and 13. It says, Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So at this point, according to verse 10, Lot looks up and he says, I know where I'm going. I'm going near Sodom because that's good land. That's where I'm going to have the best business. That's where I'm going to prosper most financially. But according to verse 13, that the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. So Lot chose to prosper himself financially rather than spiritually. And unfortunately, that's a choice people still make. They choose to live near the world. They choose to make their friends in the world. And instead of considering what's best spiritually, ultimately we'll see in a couple of chapters how that caused problems for Lot, and it will cause problems for us also today. Well, at this point, Abraham has given Lot the choice. Lot has chosen what seems to be the better choice financially. God reassures Abraham again in verses 14 and 15, and he tells Abraham, lift up your eyes and look to the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. So God says, you didn't make a bad choice in trusting me. At the end of the day, maybe not immediately, but at the end of the day, you get it all. You get it all because you trusted and obeyed me. And as an act of faith, God tells Abraham in verse 17 to arise and walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. God hasn't given it to Abram yet, but he expects Abraham to act like it's been given to him, to walk the land as if he already owned it, in an act of trust that God will fulfill his promises. And Abraham believes God, and at that point, according to the last verse in this chapter, Abraham builds his third altar. So Abraham was known for building altars of expressions of worship and commitment to God. We're told in verse 18 that Abraham moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks at Mamre, which are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. So once again, we can learn some lessons from these examples. We learn not to be like Lot, who chose to live near the world, near worldly people, and he was contaminated by them when he should have chosen what was better spiritually instead of what was better financially. We learn from Abraham's faith how he trusted God, and because he trusted God, he did not lose out. God told him that he would have everything that he could see, even though he had seen shortchanged at the time. Ultimately, God was going to reward his trust and obedience. And we see the example of Abraham has set. Now, for the third time, he builds an altar, expresses publicly his devotion, commitment, and gratitude to God, which is something that you and I should also be doing on a regular basis. Hope you will consider these things. Have a blessed day.